the degrading images perpetuated against black women and men brought here as slaves, used for free labor to build a country that they are presently denied. So when we think in terms of opportunity, so when we think about lethal misogyny, I don't want to dodge the bullet. Am I offended by, and do I think that things within certain hip-hop communities and forums have gone too far? Absolutely. I write about it. I talk about it. I think about it. I argue with rappers. But I don't begin there with them. When Jesus met the woman at the well, he didn't have a conversation about her promiscuity, alleged, because then she'd have to account for the 5 men who abandoned her. He said, give me a drink of water. You start where people are. With the conversation about misogyny and sexism, and we don't mention homophobia because polite society agrees that gay and lesbian people shouldn't have too much rights to begin with. So this is where hip-hop may agree with common civil society. So what's interesting is that the gay and lesbian people don't even, it's the B word, it's the N word, it's the H word, but it's not the F word or the L word. So what's interesting is that all of us have blind spots when it comes to articulating viewpoints that are edifying and uplifting. Not only am I against censorship, because I don't want nobody to tell me what kind of book to write, right? When I wrote a book arguing with Mr. Bill Cosby, how dare you argue against an icon who has articulated positions that are critical to our society's perpetuation in a good sense. I agree with that. But I also think he said some stuff that qualifies for gangsterism against black women. He said most of these women are promiscuous. They name the kids the wrong things. He said, I'm trying to stop you from having sex with your grandma. When she's 15, she has a baby. When she's 13, she has a baby. You do the math. Now, that's not calling a woman a B or H, but it is scandalously misinterpreting sociologically the context within which she emerges and what she means. So if we're going to deal with misogyny and sexism and patriarchy and homophobia, we've got to dig deeper into the archives of American culture, and we've got to look at the practices, the behaviors, and the beliefs that are perpetuated in Congress, that are perpetuated in business affairs, that are perpetuated in entrepreneurial circles, and in religious institutions. Black women, let's not just march on the record companies. Let's march on churches that deny black women, who are 75 to 80% of the congregation, access to leadership positions that they give their money to support. Let's ban some preaching sermons that perpetuate, and they're worse than hip-hop because they get God involved. Now they're saying God wants you to be a second-class citizen. Let me say these couple things. So I am appalled by the deep and lethal misogyny I see expressed across the culture. I wouldn't want to quarantine the crazy to hip-hop. Hip-hop, in one sense, does us the service of being explicit and articulate about its rage, although misplaced, against women, where other sectors of the culture don't do so. And ultimately, I think what we have to wrestle with is that these images that are degrading certainly are reflected in hip-hop, but did not begin there. Look at the self-critique. Lauryn Hill said, even after all my logic and my theory, I add an MF so you ignorant niggas hear me. Right? If you think about Tupac Shakur, somebody wake me, I'm dreaming. I started as a seed, the semen, swimming upstream, planted in the womb while screaming. On the top was my pops, my mama hollering stop from a single drop. This is what they got? Not to disrespect my people, but my papa was a loser. Only plan he had for mama was the blanker and abuser. And even as a seed, I could see his plan for me, stranded on welfare, another broken family. I mean, listen to the cries. Even Master P said he was unenlightened, but I think he was enlightened when he wrote the lyrics. I don't own no planes, I don't own no boats, I don't ship no dope from coast to coast. I'm telling you that even in the mouths of young, evolving artists like Mr. Banner from Mississippi, Mr. Miller from Louisiana, they are represented in Katrina's misery. The country cannot come to their rescue to take them from rooftops, but want to now indict them for the language they use in the aftermath of being abandoned. I say that's a metaphor for what America has done. And thank God for hip-hop at its best. At its best, hip-hop has allowed the expression of degraded, marginalized, yes, mostly young black men, who often see their expanse and their opportunity at the expense of women, but that's no different than that case in the black church or in American institutions of politics. I think we have to confront it. I think we cannot limit it to African American youth, and I think we have to be honest about the way in which this music, at its best, mind you, has allowed the expression of young people who have failed to be duly recognized, and as a result of that, have little recourse except to use the language, the metaphors, the similes, the analogies, and the beautiful vernacular at hand. So as I end, I think that what we must do is to constantly pay attention to the self-critical impulses within the culture itself. How come it is, why is it, that Talib Kweli, these cats drink champagne, toast death and pain like slaves on the ship, bragging about who got the flyest chains? Why isn't that music selling? Now, some people say this. Well, the decline in music sales among hip-hop artists proves that the American public is through with them. Well, if that's the case, you're losing the argument, because the so-called positive rappers in hip-hop are even further behind. So what is the public saying there? When a good movie like Talk to Me comes out, all the people who clamor for positive expression, how come they didn't go see that film? I think the crocodile tears of people who claim to want edifying art is problematic, because I don't want edifying art, I want complex art. It's not positive versus negative. Some people think that if I speak in defense of gay and lesbian people within the ecclesiastical context, theologically, that's negative. So I could never rest upon negative versus positive. What about complex?
Dr. Dyson?
Let me end here. Okay, let me end here. Let me end by saying this then. I think that hip-hop culture at its best is a necessary expression of degraded, demoralized young people who find the cultural expression of their identities in a culture that is fundamentally hostile to them as something they have to do. And I think what we should be about doing is interrogating and being more introspective about the practices that are negative in our own communities, then join with hip-hop to clean up across the board the negativity that we find there.
Okay. All right. I want to thank the witnesses. I've heard a lot of testimony, and let me just be real clear, as I stated at the opening of this hearing. We're not here to indict hip-hop, nor are we here to indict hip-hop artists.
Right.
I, for one, am very proud of the hip-hop genre. I know where it began. I know what it has become. I am proud of some of the things that it has done. It's created opportunities for young minority African-American men and women to emerge from the depths of the ghetto to become icons in the corporate world. It's created thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of jobs for people who are able to express their gifts in this competitive capitalistic society. I find that it is an art form. However, given all that, I know that there is a problem, a deep-seated, deeply rooted problem that exists in our community. And a paycheck is not, the paycheck is not an excuse for being a part of that problem. You have to emerge, as all of us do, and as all of us did. Those of us who come from the same communities, the same kind of neighborhoods, we all aspire to get out of those neighborhoods. But there's a difference between exploiting the pain and the problem and being a solution to the problem. I'm looking today in this hearing for those, again, who are committed to becoming a part of the solution as opposed to being a part of the problem. We can agree, I agree, about the rage. I got rage. I'm a member of Congress. I still have deep-seated rage. Okay, but how is that rage channeled? Am I supposed to take my rage and then spew it out in a counterproductive way so that I can get paid by others to exploit my rage? Or do I have a greater responsibility, a higher responsibility to try to take my rage and be creative in the approach to becoming a part of the solution as opposed to being a part of the problem? Look, man, brothers, let me say this. You can't justify to me the use of the word nigger because my slave master used it. There is no justification at all. My slave master raped my mama and my ancestors.